In this episode, we review the movie Spring Breakers to continue our discussion on spirits. Welcome to the Bottom Turtle Podcast. Hello everybody, and welcome to the Bottom Turtle Podcast. My name is Dr. Shannon Ray, and we're joined by our co-host Oyani Onimiya. How are you doing, Oyani?
I'm doing okay, Shannon. What's up, man? How's your week been?
Oh, my week's been good. Actually, my week's been really good. It's been one of those weeks where I go to work and I have an idea of what I want to get done each day, and I have an idea of where I want to be by the end of the week, and I hit all that shit.
No,
like that never happens, man.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah,
it never happens. I mean, it's a little bit like not quite where I wanted to be, especially Friday, man. Friday was a pain in the ass. I was trying to write this algorithm. So I'm trying to, the stuff I'd been talking about in the past episodes, this research I'd been doing, it's pretty much done. Like now I have like 95% of a draft of the paper done. And I've actually already gone through a couple iterations where I wrote it, handed off to people. They look at it, give me some suggestions. I rewrote it. So I've already rewritten it at least once. And so there's a few more things I need to get done. There's this one figure. It's going to be the flagship figure of the whole thing. And to produce it is a bit of a pain. So I have to write this algorithm to construct this particular image and then start putting like color maps on it and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And for some reason, I just couldn't get the indexing right on that algorithm. Like I kept effing it up because it had like this behavior that was dependent on which sequence it was in the algorithm that I had to like put an if statement in for. And for some reason, man, my mind was just thinking about other stuff and I just could not get that indexing right. And it kept going off by 2. And I was like, man, where's that 2 coming from? It slowed me down, man. That thing was supposed to be done. But other than that, it's been good. How about you?
Yeah, my week was pretty busy, not quite busy. I had to deliver a project that I've been working on the week prior, and I started a new website work. But other than that, it's been pretty chill. I've been kind of, a little out of it this week. So.
Okay.
Yeah, but, you know how it goes.
Yeah.
It's the weekend, and we're back again recording.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice sometimes to, look forward to, a recording. I guess I would say is more looking forward to us just having these conversations,
hanging out, pretty much. Much. I mean, we talk throughout the week, but I feel like this is kind of like when we hang out, pretty much.
Yeah. So we turn on the camera and be like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's fun. The thing is like I actually have I actually have several ongoing conversations with a lot of like probably like 5 or 6 people where it's like, all right, this time I call you at this time every week. We talk for like an hour, 2 hours, and I have these organized conversations, and I especially started them when the pandemic started because we were at home and I was getting isolated, and I really actually thrive on human interaction, and so it was actually kind of depressing to be home all the time. Even though Eunice is great company. She's just one person. So I actually made sure to have these constant. So this is like mine with you.
Probably do that though.
Yeah. Did like mine with you, even though we chat throughout the day, just texting each other back and forth, whatever memes and stuff we find,
whatever
we do
memes
that.
we see.
Yeah, but this is quality time.
Yeah. Quality time.
Yeah,
but it was cool. I think you had sent me that movie. What's it called? Spring Breakers. Which, by the way, was really weird that you sent it to me because I was like, Spring Breakers. I think I saw that movie years ago in passing. Like it was one of those things that you watch in the background, and I didn't quite pay attention to it for a couple of reasons. Yeah. One, I'm not a big fan of James Franco.
Of who? James Franco? Man, he killed that role, man. Don't hate.
Did he though? I'm not a big fan of James Franco. And when I saw that movie and some of the themes, I was like, ugh, typical James Franco movie trying to just be around these girls and just be pervy. And I'm just saying this. I don't know too much about James Franco.
Is that typical? I don't know. Is that a typical James Franco?
Anyway,
I feel like he's all over the board, that guy.
I just wrote the movie off altogether. And so when you suggested it, I'm like, Spring Breakers? So I was like, okay, fine, I'll watch it. There's probably something there. I was talking to my brother about it when he texted me. I was on the phone with my brother. And I said, you know what? If he recommends this movie, there's probably something there that he wants me to see. So, you know what? I'll take my time and, I'll watch it. And, for anyone listening, we're talking about Spring Breakers. It's a James Franco and Selena Gomez movie.
Yeah,
I think it was.
Yeah.
It came out in 2012, I think. Coincidentally, though, when I first saw it, I thought James Franco wrote it.
Oh, okay.
But he didn't, though. It was some other dude who I actually have seen a couple of his movies. Harmony Korine.
Oh, yeah. I looked at the
Harmony
director.
Korine, something like that. He directed it and wrote it.
What else has he done?
He did. The one I saw was a movie called Gummy or Gumby, something like that. And then Trash Humpers. One of the things that's very, very particular about this dude is he's very good at capturing antisocial behavior.
Yeah.
So if you go back and watch like his other stuff, and enough for you to be uncomfortable, which I kind of got a feeling of that when I watched this.
Oh yeah, you're supposed to. I think you're supposed to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I was. I was very, very uncomfortable, and so, but it was a good movie. I think it was good for me to go back and watch it again.
Well, the reason why I ended up actually having to think about that in detail is because during the pandemic, one of my friends who I started a consistent conversation with, this guy named Mark, and for some reason we were talking about a movie and I brought up Spring Breakers, and I think that I misheard him and mentioned this movie, and so he decided to watch it with his wife Julia, and we ended up they were trying to interpret it and understand what the hell this movie's about. And so I wrote a movie review. I was like, hey, let me go and write my opinion of what I think this movie is trying to communicate. And I found that in writing it, one of the best tools to write it with is the concept of spirits. To speak about that movie in terms of spirits is the best way to review it. And that's why, we're talking about it, because I think that the whole purpose of the movie was to talk about the spirit of a true spring breaker and what a true spring breaker actually is. And did you read the review I sent you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. What did you think of it?
I want to hear your take on it. I had a whole bunch of things I didn't like about the movie, if I'm being honest. Yeah. And, I watched it and it was like, okay, it was okay. I could see, all of the messaging is in there, it's consistent. I can see all that, but there was so much about it I had to raise an eyebrow, when I was watching it. But I just want to hear your review on it.
Yeah, so the whole point, I think, is that during spring break, for those who are unfamiliar what that is in the U.S., it's where a bunch of college students go to some exotic location, usually South Florida or something like that.
Just a place with a beach.
Man, if you're from Kansas, that shit's exotic. Let's be real here.
You know what? Yeah, you are right.
Yeah. So they go to these exotic locations, and they if you ever seen those Girls Gone Wild videos, that's probably happened at some sort of spring break, kind of like a Mardi Gras spring break type of thing. And essentially, when you go there, you're expected to probably be having a lot of sex, probably expected to
drinking a lot,
drinking a lot, doing a lot of stuff that you wouldn't do typically. And what you're essentially doing is going out to live out this fantasy where you're breaking the rules and not really making decisions that are designed to preserve your life. They're not designed to be responsible. They're designed to do the exact opposite, to be irresponsible just for a week. But the thing about being a spring breaker in that sense is when the week is over, you go back to your life. So you really are pretty limited to what you can do. You don't want to binge drink yourself to death, because you have a life that you plan on living after this. And so you're kind of living out a fantasy of a person who is acting in an irresponsible way. And so when you look at this show, they're always emphasizing spring break forever. And there are these two girls in the show who are particularly into this whole idea of spring break. And so my whole idea of the movie was that the two girls and James Franco, they have truly embodied the spirit of the spring breaker. And by that, I mean they live a life that is not meant to preserve anything. It is to indulge in excess and depravity to one's heart, to one's content, with no regard for the safety and harm of others or themselves. And this is what it means to truly embody the spirit of the Spring Breaker. And it's what it means to truly embody the spirit of chaos. And so the idea of the movie, and one of the things that I pointed out in the review is that James Franco's character, when he first meets up with these girls, that he takes them back to his place. His name is Alien, and he gives his vision of the reality he wants to create. And he uses language like, look what I've created. It's like a dream, like I'm living a dream. And he's like, using all this dream imagery. And so a lot of people, they want to live their life. They want to be good. And it's like, no, I want to be bad. And he's talking about all this stuff, that the depraved stuff that he's into. And when I watched that show, Eunice and I had just watched this mini series on Madam C.J. Walker, which was like the first, I think, woman millionaire and African American. And in her movie, she uses the same language, like she's trying to bring her dream into existence. So this usage of the terms like, bringing in my dream, like, and then when you accomplish it, it's like I'm living my dream. It all feels like a dream because I envisioned it and then I took the actions to bring it into existence, and now reality. It feels unreal. So this is the type of language, like if you listen to celebrities or prize fighters or people who have accomplished something significant, this is the type of language they've used. They started off at this state where they're pretty much like, this is something that I can envision myself accomplishing in the future, and then they actually take the step to do it, and then when it actually happens, like, this shit doesn't even feel real. It feels like a dream. And so this is him articulating what the spirit of a true spring breaker. And so one thing there's a scene in the movie where he has these two girls in his bed, and they're like making out and stuff, and they have these guns, and they put them to his face, and they make him, they basically act like we can rob you, we can kill you and take all your stuff right now, we don't need you. And they put the gun up to his mouth, and he starts sucking it like it was a penis, like he's like blowing the gun barrel. Yeah, he's blowing the barrel of the gun. And when I saw that scene, I remember thinking, like, he has two options here. He can either demonstrate that he's really not, he can be a bitch or whatever, and they'll probably kill him or something, because these women are indeed completely insane. And he will either bitch out, or he will start sucking on the gun, and he will
embrace it, essentially.
Or he'll embrace it. That's what I'm going to say. Yeah, he'll embrace it. And when in the moment where he embraced it, he demonstrated to them that they have the same spirit, and he actually mentioned that was the moment he fell in love. Like, he fell in love with them, and at that point, they were completely tight with each other. And so, at the end of the movie, when there's like this big scene where they go to take over this rival drug dealer's drug den, and Alien gets shot at the beginning, but the two girls, they go in, and there's like this. There's like victorious, beautiful music playing, and they're just going around shooting and killing people. And you can tell that they're living out, like the music sounds like the music someone would play for someone who achieved their highest goals, their highest ideals.
It's like triumphant music.
Triumphant, yeah. And so they're out, that basically they're living their highest ideals to truly, fully embrace the spirit of the Spring Breaker. And one thing that was really good about the movie is they had this one character, Selena Gomez's character, who was really Christian. And so she, at some point in time when they meet up with Alien, prior to that, she was really into playing and flirting with the Spring Breaker spirit. But when when things started getting too rough, she got on a bus and left. And at the beginning of the movie, she's at this Christian gathering, and there's like this over-enthusiastic pastor. And he says in the movie, like, God or Jesus or something like that always gives you a way out. And so what ended up happening is that when the spirit of the Spring Breaker got too much, it was that spirit of her Christian spirit that was the thing that kept her from going completely spiraling down this path of depravity. And I think that this was completely intentional to place this character there to kind of demonstrate, as this movie progressed, they kept doing more and more depraved things, and it was kind of like showing them their descent down the path of chaos. So that was my interpretation of the movie.
Yeah, I think overall I agree with what you said. I think it's very easy to see, how these girls, their goal was to embody the spirit of a spring breaker to the extremes of it. I think overall my problem with the whole thing was the fact that there was no real, focus or speak on the consequences of some of these things that they did, and the way outs that they gave the two girls who kind of left, the one who got shot in the arm and Selena Gomez got on the thing. I think the one who got shot in his arm is actually Harmony Korine's wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
that's his wife. Oh, okay. And yeah, which is
did a little Google down by
yeah, it is his wife, and she's usually in his movies apparently. She's always in there. I mean, if your husband is making movies, why not?
And you're an actress.
I mean,
get free work.
Yeah.
Why not?
So
the movie's decent enough too. So it's not like you're working for a bum. Yeah.
And I think that was kind of where I wish that a lot more of the focus was on, because even for people like, Vanessa, what's her name? Selena Gomez and the other girl who left, you guys committed quite a few crimes to start with.
Selena Gomez didn't. I mean, the crimes she committed were pretty mild.
I mean, she was driving the car when they did the first robbery to get the money.
No, that was the girl who got shot in the arm. Was driving
that was the one shot in the arm. Okay, so she wasn't with.
But Selena Gomez knew that they robbed a bunch of people to get that money to go to Florida. So she did, choose to indulge in the what do you call it?
And to make matters even worse, these two girls who barely had any gang, quote unquote, training, walk into a mansion filled with gangs and killed all of them, and then drive off in the Lamborghini into the sunset. But again, if the focus of the movie is just to kind of portray what it means to be a spring breaker, to kind of separate yourself from
responsibility
and everything, and just live in, because if you notice, they kept saying things like when they were going to go rob the was it a diner they robbed? I don't even know
the diner.
Yeah. They kept saying stuff like, just treat it like it's a video game.
Oh, yeah.
So it's so obvious that they are trying to like we say, step into a whole other, neighborhood.
They're trying to conjure a specific state of being for them to act these things out. Yeah.
And it was so obvious how much they were into it from all the other scenes, like where she had the other girl on the floor and was like, give me your money, where they were just goofing off outside of the store.
Oh, yeah, so the actors who did that, they killed that scene. Man.
Oh, yeah,
they
did.
It. Yeah, it was convincing.
They did. So I think, I definitely see, how essentially all they kind of focused on was just trying to portray the spirit of who a spring breaker is.
And what it means to truly embrace that way of thinking and to set that as your ideal, as the thing that you worship, because they definitely worship that thing. There's no doubt about it.
No doubt about it. And that's also something that we were going to talk about, I guess. On the
there was one thing.
Go ahead.
Are we going to step away from the movie because there was
No.
Okay. Go ahead. All right.
No, you were going to say something about the movie. Is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. So the thing about the movie, what was it? The Selena. Yeah. So one of the things that I think is interesting about that movie is the number of people that you could maybe see or imagine or you even know personally who try to pretend as though they've embraced that spirit when it's really a lie. So I don't know how many times you've ever met someone who's like, man, if that happened to me, man, I would have slapped that fool or something like that. But then a situation arises where they have an opportunity to slap that fool. Or you don't have that spirit in you. So that's so the number of, I always say that, I think I ended the review with, this is a cautionary tale for all the Cash Me Outside girls, all the Cash Me Outside, how about that girls, all the people who want to project an image of themselves as not caring and I would do this and I would slap this person, people who want to pretend as though that's their ideal. If you really want to embrace that spirit, if that's really your life, this is where that leads. Yeah. And I feel like it's a cautionary tale in that sense. Like, are you really about that life? Because I think a lot of people give themselves these delusions that they are that person. But if you really want to embrace the spirit of chaos, man, that's a whole set of lack of caring about consequences that is on a whole other level.
It spirals down because it was, they got locked up in jail. That was where the first girl drew the line. All right, I'm out. The second girl got shot in the arm. She's like, oh, okay, this is too much for me. Yeah,
exactly.
So it just spirals.
And you notice the girl who got shot in the arm, she was not in the scene when they had her when they put the gun in Alien's mouth.
And which was something that caught me too, because I was like, it's interesting that it's just the two of them. Like, where is the third one?
Yep.
Yeah, but then
she's not a true speaker.
Why?
And also, it's funny because when they meet Alien, when you're watching the show, it makes it seem as though he's guiding them. But in actuality, those two girls because the thing is one thing I noticed is when that girl got shot in the arm, I feel like Alien had to kind of psych himself up to go and get revenge. Those other two girls, they were completely into it. There was no doubt that they were gonna go and shoot that place up. But you notice how Alien dies right when they get there.
Yeah.
So the glory is not given to Alien; it's given to those two girls
because he was not Alien.
About it. Even
he was not as about it.
He was, but not them. Like those two girls were the embodiment of chaos.
Spirit. And that's just what it means to really, become a Dave Chappelle. For example, if you want to embody the spirit of a comedian, like this is what it looks like. Yep, this is what a spring breaker looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
And the thing is, like, it reminded me of this time. And so the thing about this is, this wanting to project a model of yourself that is not consistent with your actual internal self, and what you're really about. This leads to all types of disastrous behavior, because once you project an image that you're a tough or you're a thug or you're this, and someone challenges it, you have two options. You can either go, oh, you know what, you're right, that's not me. You can eat that. Yeah, you can eat that and then back off. Or you can, or what I think what happens oftentimes is that they put in a situation where it's like, all right, now it's your opportunity to demonstrate you're about that life, and they back off. Then instead of recognizing, hey, that was a data point that demonstrates I'm not really about that life because I had an opportunity to demonstrate it and I failed. As opposed to seeing it that way, what can you do? Lie to yourself, and you can create a fantasy in which you can try to reinterpret that scenario. You can reinterpret that scenario as, instead of letting that data point really tell you something about who you are. Yep. And the reason why people will do that is because if you've been living this image and this is the image you've lived, then you get the experiences associated with that image, as long as no one challenges it. But once it becomes challenged,
as long as the universe, period.
Yeah, as long as the universe doesn't force you to.
You could claim to be a outdoorsman and get stuck out in the woods. Okay.
Yeah. And see if you really embrace the outdoors. The outdoorsman
really spirit. And and we're using the word spirit a lot, but going back to last episode, we define spirit as the way something programs the universe and the way it's programmed by it.
Yep.
And just going by that movie and seeing how those girls program their universe. It's so obvious that this is a spirit that they embodied, that they worship. This is what they wanted to be.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
was the ideal. Yeah, and the triumphant music at the ending was almost like they had achieved peak spring breakerness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Peak chaos. And the thing is I really do think that Alien was like it was his job to articulate that spirit. Like, here is the model of that spirit. Yeah. And I think that by making them like fall in love and have them all say they love each other, that means that they recognize that spirit in each other. It's just like when I said, if I go talk to physicists and I start talking about Lie groups, Lie algebras, and gauge theories, and I start going into the mathematical details, even if they didn't even know what my credentials were, they'd be like, that's the spirit of a physicist.
Yep.
You don't have to, you can, the spirits recognize each other. And so that's, I think that was why, James Franco's articulation is their articulation of who they are.
It was a pretty good movie. He had Gucci Mane in it, if you're
is that who that was?
Oh, yeah, the, what was his name? His best friend or ex-best friend or whatever.
Yeah.
Gucci Mane.
I had no clue. I didn't know.
But it was.
But I was saying that the delusion, the idea that the people who are the Catch Me Outside, how about that, people of the world, when faced with a scenario that demonstrates that that's not really who you are, if you want to continue living that life and having that experience, you have to lie to yourself. You have to create delusions. And so that delusion is actually like stored as, again, we're going back to it, it's memory, right? So there's actually a configuration associated with the waveform of that delusion. And that thing is a deceiver. It lies to you so that you can live out a fantasy world at the expense of your understanding of reality. And if you have this model of yourself that's not consistent with who you are, then when put in situations, it would be much better to have the information about who you really are in a scenario so that you can make decisions given that information, as opposed to thinking you're something else that you're not. And now all of a sudden, you are less equipped to deal with whatever you're dealing with.
Because at that point, you can actually make the decision to embody that spirit. You could be like, you know what? Okay, fine.
Yeah, you could.
I'm going to, learn how to fight now.
Yeah.
I'm going to.
Or I will slap this person without worrying about what the
about it. Yeah, that's where you make that choice. Like you were saying, I was talking to a friend of mine sometime this week, and I said, we always have choices. There's always a choice. We're constantly, making choices, trying to pick and choose what to do, what's the right move. And these choices are part of what builds that spirit. It becomes part of what forms the idea of self, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
And so if you're someone who really who claims, quote unquote, to embody the spirit of an outdoorsman. Yeah, I could survive in the woods for 5 days with no water or whatever. It's like, okay, when the universe actually challenges you to do these things, you can, like you said, go along with that delusion if you want. Or you can make that choice to say, you know what, this is a spirit that I value and I want to worship it. I want to, preserve it. I want to make the configuration stable. Whatever it is you need to do, you give yourself into that ideal. AKA the spring breakers who just, slowly but surely, from partying and drinking and drugs to armed robbery to it's just it's just a slippery slope.
Yeah. And I think that idea of that slippery slope, and when challenged, kind of living up to that spirit, that is, I think, how a lot of people get put in situations that can find them in situations they don't want to be in, because it's like, all right, you're being challenged by this. Now I have to live up to it. So now, what do they call it? Doubling down? Double down. But then you got to double down again. You got to double down again. You got to double down again. Then suddenly, where do you find yourself? And you're like, man, like, it's just not worth it. It's just easier to live a life consistent with your spirit, as opposed to creating a persona that isn't really who you are and then trying to live up to it just so that you can go around and tell people that this is what you are, and so you can live out a fantasy. It's just not worth it, man.
The first girl, Selena Gomez, she was out. It was just too much. It was just more than she wanted.
She wanted the regular spring break.
I'm not that hardcore.
Yeah.
And so,
but it's actually funny. So this movie reminds me of this time, maybe it was last year, a couple years back. And Tom and I, we went to, at the MMA gym I went to, two of my friends, my gym members, they were fighting. It was Tim and Al. And because I was with Tom, who was one of the coaches, I was able to go into the back with the fighters. As so like the whole night I was in the back area with the fighters that were preparing to fight and everything. So everyone back there is a trained fighter who within minutes or an hour is going to go into a cage and punch people in the face. And you could feel the tension in the back room. And my friend Brandon, the guy I was talking about last episode, he was there too. And the thing about Brandon is this guy is a very positive spirit. This dude just exudes positive energy.
That's
if
awesome.
if anyone's familiar with the fighter Sage Northcutt, you can go Google like Sage Northcutt being like a nice guy, and he's just like insanely nice. That is Brandon. But he's also a dude who can kick the shit out of you. Like he can fuck you up, But he doesn't go around projecting that persona. But we were back there, and some dude who was part of an entourage of some fighter, he comes back there and he's like, man, what the fuck is this, man? There ain't no charging stations. What is this bullshit? Oh hell no! Like it was like this goofy looking white dude. Like it was James Franco's character from that movie.
I love it.
But like a fake version of James Franco's character. But it was funny because he's back there trying to project this image to fighters. Everyone there.
What are you
Even
doing?
though I'm not a cage fighter, everyone there is trained in martial arts.
Yeah.
No one's impressed. And Brandon just started laughing openly. Like everyone else was just kind of looking at the guy like some people were uninterested.
Who's this tough guy?
Brandon was just laughing openly, just like openly mocking and laughing about the dude because it was so fake. It was such a fake persona, and it's just like, man, this dude, I would not want to imagine being in this guy's delusion. I don't want to be there.
It's like
a
fake
awful.
Spring Breaker. That's what it is, yeah. And then you're trying to do that around those two girls who just wiped out a whole room of gangsters. Like,
exactly.
Are you really about this life?
No. Yeah, they're not going to recognize that. Yeah. So that's what it reminded me of. But I think that embracing or projecting an image that's inconsistent with who you or what you actually are is just a path to misery. And, it's best to not build up this version of yourself that's not real and then try to live up to it, because when challenged with when challenged, and you always have to defend the lie. Yeah.
The universe will challenge you, and at some point, it's either you double down and just continue to live in this delusion, or you just accept the fact that this is not who you are, and either you value that spirit so much that it's something that you want, or just agree that this is not who you are, get on your bus,
exactly,
and go back home.
And go find, get on your bus and go back home. Yeah, nice. Well said, man. That's it. Yeah. But I think in general, just the idea of delusions and fantasy thinking, like we were saying in conspiracies and false trophies, I think that is what you get with like conspiracy theory type people. This is the type of thing you get with people, like even people who are online they'll find some political subject and they'll find some scathing words or something like that to say, and then they'll get like 50 or 100 or 1,000 likes on Twitter, and then that validates whatever it is they posted, and so they feel like they're like changing the world or that they've accomplished something, and they're giving themselves this trophy. And it's just this delusional giving in to the delusions in your mind is just a path to chaos, and it not only affects you, but it affects everyone in your surrounding area. Yeah. Like when you project non-truth into the air, like the earth being flat, and that stuff starts spreading, what happens?
Gossip even.
Or gossip. Well, I view this stuff as being like gossiping about reality, like gossiping about the state of reality, because you're basically, because you're basically taking the data and then you're injecting noise into it. And so now, if we're trying to navigate the space to determine what the state of reality is and how to create what we want to create as a collective system, it's now harder to do that because we have to sort through your bullshit.
Yeah.
And so so it's just this aspect of spreading fantasy thinking and delusion. When that actually gets casted over an entire society, that whole thing can no longer predict the future, and it'll start creating. And like you said, you will start to notice when planes start falling out the sky. You will start to notice when a society starts losing the ability to predict the future.
That's where all of our comfort exists, and it's so easy to forget that that's where. Look, if we can't predict the future, nothing works. This video game I'm playing right now,
there's a cost in embracing and delusion.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And this video game I'm playing right now, Outer Worlds. It's funny because two of the characters that are on my crew, they have very opposing views about society. So one of them is more of the camp of, let's tear everything down, and it's the corporate America is killing us, and the capitalism and all that. Yeah. And the other lady is like, when you tear it all down, have you thought about what you are going to replace it with?
This isn't the game?
This game is pretty.
I'm gonna have to check this game out.
Yeah, check it out. It's a pretty good game. And so it's one of those things where they have very opposing views and they go back and forth about it. And it's interesting to think about that and just wonder, when all of these noise is being injected into the system, when we, kind of devolve into chaos, kind of how it was in that
Spring Breakers
movie. No one wants to live there.
Yeah.
No one wants to live with that much noise, that much, no one does. And it really does affect the quality of the data that we're getting back. Like even something as simple as gossiping about someone. For example, someone gets fired at your job. And, the facts of the matter is this person got fired. And then you go to retell the story like, oh, he got fired. He was probably looking at something inappropriate on his computer. That you've just injected that noise in there now.
Yep, you just injected noise into the system. And it actually, it reminded me of a couple things. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the show Dragon Prince. It was written by...
Yes.
Yeah, it was written by one of the head writers or one of the significant writers in the original Avatar: The Last Airbender series, this Aaron Ehas guy. And you can tell that show is all about ethics and morals. Like, that entire show is just a giant lesson on...
You could just become a shadow.
And how, actually, the Varen character, I believe that thing is literally his shadow. That's literally the depiction of someone...
took over him.
Yeah, and it took over him. It's literally the depiction of someone lying to themselves about their motivations and behavior, and then allowing that lie to grow and justifying their shitty behavior with the lie and creating this delusion until the delusion takes over who you are. And there's this particular scene where he has these two kids, Thorin and Claudia, and they love him, and he tells Thorin without Claudia knowing to kill the princes in the show. And so when Thorin tells Claudia and they together confront him about it, he said his shadow, it tells him, like, if you tell her the truth, then you will lose her. Basically, his shadow was telling him to lie. And he was like, someone questioned, like, did you tell him to kill the princess? He goes, oh no, he misunderstood. We all know that Thorin's not that smart. And essentially what he did is he took the truth, like the truth that existed, and he injected noise into it to where now Claudia is uncertain as to what reality is, and she has to sort it. And so you've taken this dimensional space of where the truth was, this singular thing, and then you've split it to where now we don't know which is which. Yeah. And he's just and it's that act of injecting noise into the system that makes things more difficult to determine what reality is. Yeah. And
more difficult
when
to
you
predict
gossip,
the future.
Yeah. And when you gossip about the state of reality, if you're saying the earth is flat, or you're whatever delusion you are indulging in so that you can give yourself false trophies, whatever that is, that comes at an expense. It comes at a cost. It's the same thing as people who go online and look at people on political opposites, and then they start creating this extreme image of them to where they're just completely unsalvageable people. It's like, yeah, well, you're indulging in the feeling of self-righteousness as you're posting this long paragraph post about how evil they are, and none of them are even going to see it. While you're doing that, that's coming at the expense of your perception of those people. And so it's like, okay, have fun indulging in your delusion, fantasy trophies, but just keep in mind that comes at a cost.
It comes at a cost. And I think that is something everybody needs to just be aware of. I guess, we're not going to sit here and act like we are the arbitrators, is that the word, of what is morally right or what is not.
The paragons?
Yeah, like we're just saying, hey, look, at some point you will need to take a step back and ask yourself, how much am I just feeding my delusion about this thing? It could be, who you really are or what spirit you embody. Because the universe is going to challenge you. You're going to think you're a comedian and go on stage and bomb.
Well, the reason why I feel like I'm aware of this, and I even aware of it now, it's because I've been called out on this.
Oh, yeah.
If you live on the internet, if you're on the internet, you should be growing over time.
Yeah.
Like, the BS that you're doing when you're a teenager or when you're 20, like, getting into fights with random people over shit that you know nothing about, like, that stuff, you should stop doing that. By the time you're an adult, you shouldn't be doing that stuff anymore. And luckily, like, I remember I can think of multiple times where someone would say something and I would jump on, like, try to defend my side and stuff. And then someone else just comes up and goes, none of you know what the fuck you're talking about, right? And I have to step back. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I have no clue what I'm talking about right now.
And this
happens enough times.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
And you just have to eat it.
Yeah,
because that's how you're gonna grow. You just have to eat it.
Yeah, you have to, and that's the thing, is when confronted with who you really are, which is at that time someone who does not know what they're talking about, someone who's speaking ignorantly. Whenever you're confronted with that, you have option. You can either put up a wall to defend the criticism, or you can step back and go, okay, wait, is that true? And if so, is that consistent with my ideals? And if it is, then I need to accept right now that I'm being ignorant, And then I need to just accept that's who I am. My spirit at its current state does this thing. Once you're aware of that, then you can stop doing it.
You can stop doing it. Yeah. You can actually even protect yourself better.
Exactly.
Because imagine if, Selena Gomez did not get on that bus. She would have probably been shot before Alien. Yeah. And that's the reason why Alien got shot first. Because he had the choice, right? When they shot that girl in the arm, he could have been, hey, you know what? This is the extent of that life that I'm about.
Yeah.
But he went along with it. He got shot. The two girls who were about that life all the way.
Yep.
They were about that life all the way. And that's kind of how I read the movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were true spring breakers.
They were true spring breakers to the core.
One thing that I wanted to point out with Selena Gomez's character, when they got arrested, she was like, I don't understand how this could have happened. I don't understand how this is the result of our behavior.
Oh, yeah.
And are you kidding me? That was the demonstration of a full-blown delusional person. There's no way, especially given that she was just Christian person at the beginning of the movie, she knows right from wrong. Exactly. She knew that when they told her that they robbed that place to get the money to go there in the first place, that the likelihood that you're hanging out with these type of people, that this could happen. But she told herself, I don't understand how this could be the outcome of what we were doing. It's like, there's no way there was not enough data for you to know that. That is a lie. You were lying to yourself. Yeah.
Which was exactly why the movie rubbed me, wrong, weird, because I felt like there was just no consequence for all this. But I guess that wasn't like the scope of, the camera's lens wasn't really looking at that. That's why, the moment she got on that bus and left, it was almost like she was just deleted out of the whole out of that reality. Exactly. The moment the other girl got on the bus, she was deleted out of that reality, and they just focused on the people who were living in that reality,
in that life. Yeah. But yeah, it's just one of those things where you're another thing that I wanted to point out was when confronted with your BS. So when you're confronted with the things about yourself that aren't true, and someone points out, hey, that's a delusion you're under, a lot of times I think people react to protect their egos. Like they react to put up a shield to defend themselves from the critique that you are being critiqued by an other within the system. And to defend yourself from that critique, that is almost like being that's not walking through the fire. That reaction to immediately put up a defense and feel some sort of way, that is like something being programmed unconsciously. It's like within your system there is this thing, and so now someone knows that if I ping that thing in a specific way, they'll react this way. And instead of feeling the reaction and then post-processing the emotion and processing past it so that you can feel the fact that that's who you are, eat it, and then move on. Just accepting the reaction of self-defense and protecting your own mind. That is like acting in a way that, what am I trying to say? It's like just allowing yourself to roll down the hill, I guess, is what the metaphor we've been using.
Because you're going to have to keep doubling down to protect this image that you have, or this idea you have. And the funny thing that a lot of people don't quite understand is when you walk through that fire often enough, you get used to it.
You get used to it.
And there's so much power in doing that, to where this ping doesn't program you anymore. Like,
it doesn't program you.
You're not gonna ping me. It's okay. I messed that up. Oh, okay, cool. That's fine. Yeah. And once you do it often enough, it just becomes how you live. Like, you just walk through the fire every time. You just walk through the fire every time. And
it's actually funny. When I was in college, like I can tell you a number of times I've been critiqued in a way to where you first feel something, you react. Like your first initial reaction, you just react. The number of times I've had that first initial reaction, then like, well, let me think about this more. And I remember one time, it was before I went to grad school, and I was on Xbox Live, and I was on Xbox Live, and I was talking. I was playing probably what do you call it, Gears of War, and I think there was some person who we were talking back and forth, and we were texting, like we were text messaging. And I remember I at the time, I know there was a part of my mind that was living this delusion of being like, oh, well, because I'm doing math or physics or whatever, then, I can view myself as being like smart or whatever. And I'm doing something impressive.
I mean, you have to admit that was probably part of your motivation to get into it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I can tell you the whole process of my evolution of my motivations, and they've changed. They've changed over time. And there's actually a certain point where the vanity did some work because it put me on the right path. And then, of course, the motivation changes over time because it's not strong enough to do all the work. But the point is, at some point in time, I was like, I thought myself like, oh, I can probably like talk this person. And I made some statement where I spelled the word infinite, but I didn't spell it right. And I was talking about how I was going to go to like grad school or something like that, and the guy was like, you can't even spell this word right. It's like, and like basically he just called me out like a hammer on my head, like bam. And the thing is like when I was he got me. And the thing is like, I know as an undergraduate, I was not as studious as I should have been. I did not work as hard as I should have. And so I knew there were gaps in what I knew. I knew that I was not the most impressive physics student and all this stuff. And when he landed that on me, I had an option. I could either recoil and be like, well, F you, and like feel some way and sit in my feelings. But I decided, you know what? He's absolutely right.
I did not spell it right.
There is a deception that I'm feeding myself right now. And you know what I did? I was like, all right, when I go to grad school, I'm not effing around. Like that one, I still remember this, that one dude, some rando on the internet who called me out.
Shout out to that rando.
I took this guy seriously. Like this was a serious critique of my being. And because of that, I went to grad school. I wasn't effing around. I sold my Xbox. I didn't have any game stations. I studied all the time. That's all I did. Like I need to catch up because I'm not going to accomplish this goal. Do I want to have the delusion of being a physicist, or do I want to be a physicist?
Yeah. Do I want to make like a spring breaker, or be an actual spring breaker, and that's it?
Am I about that life?
You valued that spirit of being a physicist, and it was something that you nurtured and you worked on.
Yeah.
And a little bit of critique is should not be enough to always give that response back, because the moment people are able to get that response from you, you've given up some of your control. You can't do that. And
I also had another time where, like, this is how willing I am to accept critique. One time when I was in grad school, I was riding my bike and I didn't have a reflector. I didn't have like a flashing light on my bike. So it's like the middle of the night, because I'd be at the office working until like, 1 or 2 in the morning or something. And so I'm riding my bike, and some dude drove by and was like, get a effing reflector, like get a flashing light, like it was clearly like he was not trying to be kind, like he was being an asshole, because he's probably almost hit me, was pissed that I was riding my bike unsafely. And the first thing I responded was to be like, well, F you, and get upset. You know what I did? I was like, that dude's right. I went and got a light the next day.
Yep, absolutely. Because you can't be mad.
I mean, he didn't say it nicely, but it was a legit critique. It's like let me remove out the negativity of that, and let me really just absorb whatever positivity I can get from that interaction. He is absolutely right. I should not be riding my bike like this.
Love it. Yes, I don't know. I think overall I enjoyed the movie. I'm glad that we were able to just talk about it, because typically this is what we'll do. We'll recommend movies to each other and talk about it later. So I'm kind of glad that we're able to do an episode and get listeners to kind of get a peek into how we use some of these languages that we have constructed over time to kind of explain different situations and break down different concepts and ideas and things like that. So
because the lens of spirit was the best lens to interpret that movie. It made it easier to understand. And what was it? I was gonna say something. The movie. Oh yeah, one thing that I kind of I think that I can't believe I didn't think of this, but one of the ways to protect your self-delusion is to embody the spirit of the gamer. So as we've been saying in the past, the spirit of the gamer is one in which you're playing a game, and there are rules to the game, and then there is some way of knowing whether or not you've won the game. So there's a condition for whether or not you've won or whether or not you lost the game. When I actually started conceptualizing in terms of information theory in this way, asking yourself, what am I doing and why? When you put it in the context of a game, I feel like it automatically lets you establish the rules of the game that are being played. So it starts making things more objective because once you identify the game that's being played, now you can start once you can conceptualize a model of the game that's being played, then you can start to determine what are the objective ways of winning or losing that game.
What strategies you need to use to kind of get to the objective that you want.
Yeah. Yep. Because the thing is, if someone tells you they're playing a game, and if someone tells you they're playing a game, and every action they take always gets them closer to losing the game, always all the time, it's like, are you sure that's the game you're playing? You can. In other words, when you're trying to question your own motivation of what am I doing and why, so that you're more aware and more conscious of what you're doing, like, am I really playing the game of trying to become a physicist, or am I playing the game of feeding my ego of getting the label of physicist? Which game am I playing? Because those games are pretty close to each other and it's hard to tell. You have to, being able, if someone proclaims that they're trying to make a comedy and everything they have in the movie is all horror oriented,
and blood and
scary
clowns.
There's not even one joke in the entire movie. He's like, that's not the game you're playing, bro. You're not. That's not the game you're trying to win right now. And so when someone starts articulating what they're about, what games they're playing, you can start looking at objective criteria for whether or not they are making strategies of winning that game. And this is a good way of identifying other people's delusions, but also identifying your own delusions.
Yeah. And it's just a good way for you to navigate life and understand different things or different ideas. If you just take a step back and ask yourself, what game am I playing here? What game is being played here? What is the objective? And you could apply this to how you review a movie, for example. Like, what was the objective here, and all of that. It's a great analogy to say, just try to develop the persona of the gamer and always ask yourself, what game am I playing? What are the objectives? What strategies am I using to be successful in this game? And am I actually playing a game I think I'm playing?
Yeah. And it's also good. The spirit of the gamer is good because it tells you what you value. So it tells you what games you play and what strategies you choose to play them. And it also tells you about intelligence. Like, it tells you a lot, because it tells you what games you choose to play, which tells you which things they're trying to bring into existence. We know what games they were playing in that Alien, with Alien and those two girls in Spring Breakers. We knew what game they were trying to play. And then it can tell you something about your ethics. So, all right, this is the game you're trying to play. What strategies do you use to play them?
Dude.
And then also it tells you about your intelligence, because if you're playing this game, it's like, okay, there's the objective function. How long does it take you to get to the objective function? And do you even get to the objective? Because if you're on the opposite side of the board, then it's like, okay, there's a problem here. And so not only can you and conceptualize this in terms of the gamer, but then you conceptualize it in terms of the optimization. Because remember, in the last season, we're talking about how the symmetries between optimization and gaming is that for a game, there are the rules. That's in optimization, that's the objective function. Then in gaming, there's conditions whether or not you win or not. And so in optimization, they're like the residuals of how close you are to the objective function, the thing you're trying to minimize. So that tells you whether or not whether you're at a global minima or you're at a local minima that's closer than another local minima. It tells you how close you are to optimizing the objective function. So now you can start using these analogies, and these analogies of optimization are consistent with computing, because essentially you are this thing that's conceptualizing the space of configuration. So your system is going through this, is navigating this space, and then you're rearranging the physical reality. So, and then just as in an optimization algorithm on a computer that's trying to find a specific configuration on that computer, you're trying to bring a specific configuration into existence. So, the spirit of the gamer and the spirit of optimization of the computer algorithm, of the optimization algorithm together can give some deep insight into like what
how you can like approach your day-to-day life or your goals or things like that. But before we do the plugs, I just wanted to say something. That game, Outer Worlds, you have to play that game, because I'm just thinking now that you'll probably really enjoy it, because there's some situations where I have to decide, should I lie to this person or should I tell the person the truth? So you will have all these three options, and it affects what ends up happening in the game. one of the very first things I had to do in the game was I had to decide what town I needed something on my ship, like some sort of power system on the ship. And there were 2 towns that each had one. Yeah. And they used it to generate their power. I had to decide what town I wanted to kill.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And in killing that town, I can't go back there now because every time I go there, they hate me. They want to shoot me. So if I have a mission that takes me to that town, I know I have to just go in guns blazing because nobody likes me there.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I took away their power. So it kind of just really, puts some of the things we talk about in perspective about, because the kind of spirit that I'm trying to, embody through the game, it informs the actions that I take. So I always have the option of, I don't want a diplomatic, solution. I want to shoot everybody and get the objective and get out of there. And you could do that. Or you could decide, let me talk to them. Let me try to make peace within these 2 warring factions. And like you said, this is the objective. And you have to then decide, what are the strategies that I'm going to use to, achieve these objectives in line with the spirit that, I value.
Yep. Yeah, man. So it's really, it's I don't know. I feel like sometimes this stuff there are a lot of people and ideas and systems of thought that articulate these ideas. I think they're pretty common, but I think that it depends on whether or not it connects with people. Yeah.
Yeah, so and I think that just, putting it in perspective with our day-to-day lives, or like movies and, how we explained it with video games and the objectives, it's so clear in video games. You see objective. Yeah, and then okay, this is the map. It's
there's a score that's being kept. Yeah, the score is kept for you. Actually, I have an idea about, and I think I've talked to you about this before, about why things like what do you call it, like game shows are considered more mindless than something like, I don't know, like Shark Tank or like a movie or something like that. And I think that it's because, like, if you're watching something like Shark Tank and you see people negotiating for business and they're setting up their stats of their business and all these things, all of the scorekeeping and the parameters of the game you have to do in your own head. Like, you have to keep track of it. You have to build up, what is the objective? What could they possibly get out of this? What are the consequences of these actions? You have to do you have to do it all yourself. But if you're watching a game show, they literally keep the scores on the thing. Yeah. They tell you they ruled explicitly each time. Yeah, you just don't watch it because all the actual work of building up, of imagining the game is already done for you. Yeah. Yeah.
This is interesting.
This is an idea I had.
But I think we're just gonna end the episode here today.
All right, man.
Leave it at that. This was great. I love that we're just able to chit chat. We didn't really use the outline, but I like that we're able to use that movie to kind of talk about one of the major things we talked about last week, which is spirits, and really kind of go into it in detail.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that, yo.
Yeah. It was good. Mm-hmm. I was a little skeptical, but I enjoyed it. It's a lot in there. So if you have a minute, guys, try to watch the movie. Let us know what you think about it. We might be full of shit, but that's also fine.
And I'll post a review that I wrote on the subreddit. On the subreddit. So if anyone wants to go check it out, you can go read it there.
And if you have a minute, grab that game, Outer Worlds. I think it's pretty good if you just play it and just try to observe the story and just understand that this is a society that is just trying to build itself back up from Earth that collapsed or whatever. So it's really great to kind of see all of the nuances and character building and things like that. So that should be fun.
Before we go, I wanted to point out, I contacted MC Owens, or the Blue Buddha, the dude that does the Lotus Underground podcast.
Oh, yeah. I saw the interaction y'all had.
Yeah. He seems like a pretty cool dude. I listened to more of his episode, and I actually finished listening to the rest of the episode. And this is definitely a guy that I'm going to continue listening to. It's really cool hearing his explanations of the sutras and like Buddhism and stuff like that. But one thing I forgot to mention in the last episode is with that Buddhahood, that inconceivable state of Buddhahood. One of the points is that he says it's the state of the like the state of the unconditioned, but like the state of nothingness. And he uses a really brilliant example in the episode where he's talking about, imagine someone gives you this keepsake, like your grandma's favorite mixing bowl or something like that, and she like passed that on to you, and it's like this bowl that has all this significance to you. And then he said, imagine going down to like a random street corner and just setting it there, and then walking back and just sitting here. It's like, think about all the anxiety and stuff you would feel about what someone defiling the bowl or someone like taking the bowl or something like that. Yeah, and then he said, and then imagine that there was like a random bowl. It's the exact same copy of your grandma's bowl, but it wasn't your grandma's bowl, and then you put that out on the corner, and then you're not going to care. And he was like, the reason why it's nothingness is because you imagine if you treat the grandma's bowl and that bowl equally, then you will in that situation, you won't care about either one of them. And so it's like an emptiness of not valuing one thing over another. And the reason why I can't believe I didn't think of this before is when you set everything as equal, then you're putting a maximally mixed state. on that, you're putting a maximally mixed state on things, and a maximally mixed state has maximum entropy and zero information.
It's nothing. It's pure noise. It's
completely random. That's what it means. Yeah, so that's why it's nothing. That's why treating everything equally is nothingness. It's completely random because there is
nonsense.
There's no information on it. All right, well, let's go ahead.
As always, guys, you can hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Bottom Total Podcast. We have a subreddit, the Bottom Total Podcast. There's no Reddit. You can catch us. Shannon is more active on there than I am, which I should probably do that, but work is.
It's all good. I just post a few things every once in a while.
Yeah, so you can hit us up. If you really enjoy the podcast, remember to share it with your friends, leave us a review, and download, and give us those likes. We love it. And, hopefully, we'll catch you guys next week. Stay turtling, my friends.
All right. We got to time that. Right. We got to get that time.
Enjoy your week, guys.
Peace, everybody.